Warwick, thanks for being on the Spinfast YouTube channel and agreeing to answer some of my questions I have regarding Nirvana. Before we start with that, maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience.
Sure. So I'm Warrick. I'm the CEO of Underground FPV, and I'm also the designer of the Nirvana radio. So the one that's getting quite a cult following at the moment. So I lead up the team that designs it and partnered with FlySky to manufacture it. So it's a joint project between FlySky and Underground FPV.
Great. Yeah, you mentioned the Nirvana gets quite some following, and the funny thing is, I took mine to a couple of local events in the past few weeks, and it's always the star of the event. Honestly, I had my Nirvana to a little tiny whoop event we had here in Hanover, and every one of the 20 pilots literally wanted to fly it, to touch it, and to handle it. And they say, wow, the screen. And everybody said the quality is amazing. They literally everyone was impressed about the build quality of the Nirvana itself and the quality of the gimbals, how the gimbals felt. And I don't modify my gimbals in any way. I think I'm one of the few persons that say how they are delivered are pretty much okay and great from the feeling. Many pilots feel them too loose and they try to tighten them up. I feel them they're fine as they are shipping from the factory. And there is a little bit confusion around the thing where you said you're a joint venture with FlySky. So literally there are two versions of the Nirvana. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe
Yep.
you can explain. People are questioning me and say, "Hey, where I can get one?" And I always say, "Yeah, you have to be a little bit careful where you're buying yours, because if you're getting it from places like Banggood, you're probably not using the good software that's on mine." Maybe you can explain a little bit in that direction, because I feel this causes quite some confusion.
Okay. All right. So yes, there is two different versions. So there's the Nirvana, and then there's the NV14. So the NV14 is the FlySky version, and a very, very good giveaway is at the top it'll say FlySky, and that's the NV14, which is the vanilla FlySky version. And then there's the underground version, which is the Nirvana, and so it actually says Nirvana at the top. So that's one good telltale sign. The other thing will be is the startup. So when you turn it on, it comes up with different sound tones and so forth, and also has a different startup logo. I think the battery's on this one. I can grab another one that I have here. Let me grab my other one.
Okay.
So you'll see also, this is my personal one. You'll see I have some customized gimbals on there, which will be released towards the end of the year. So they're an upgrade kit that's coming. They may or may not be included in the Pro version that might be coming or not. And so they're a full 100% CNC metal gimbal. So yeah, it's a very, very high level of precision in these new gimbals. So this is my personal one.
Okay.
But you can see there the background logo and everything in the startup sequence is different to the vanilla FlySky version.
Okay. And what about the software differences? The Nirvana uses a software that's developed by Underground FPV. Is that right?
Okay, so both sets of firmware are developed by OpenTX, the core functions, and FlySky uses the standard OpenTX, whatever they've been given, and they've been doing their own tweaks on their side. We've rewritten a bunch of what we didn't like and rewrote it ourselves internally. So our core platform is still based on OpenTX, but we have changed a significant amount for what we felt needed to be changed to suit the Nirvana. One is the Nirvana is it's a different radio, right? You can't take the same firmware that's on a Horus and use it on the Nirvana. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit the ethos of what the Nirvana is supposed to be. The icon set doesn't suit the actual radio. He just made a whole bunch of it suit the Nirvana and give it the functionality it needs to have. One of the major feature sets that we just released this week is the crossfire. So the crossfire settings and so forth are in the next firmware update, which will be released this week, and that'll give you all those ability to change your power levels, your channel, your failsafe, and then also your VTX settings for those guys who use it for racing and so forth. They'll be able to change all their VTX settings straight from the word go on the screen.
Great. That's I think that's a big feature. Many people are asking for it. Me personally, I'm the user of one of the big crossfires where you can set basically everything on the menu. So that's not that big of a deal for me personally. But yeah, I'm a great crossfire user, and what bothers me a little bit is how let's start differently. The Nirvana is a really great radio. I do fly my tiny whoops and small quads with the FlySky protocol, and it feels amazing to have the Nirvana in my hands. It's basically a completely different feeling from all other radios. When I take my Taranis X9D afterwards, I think that's not natural. I'm holding a big box with sticks on it. It's really bad ergonomics compared to Nirvana. And what bothers me a little bit how Nirvana integrates with Crossfire. When I wedge on my big thick Crossfire module with the JR adapter and everything in the back of the Nirvana, it kind of destroys the great feeling I have without Crossfire. But I kind of need Crossfire for flying outside long distance. So is there anything you're planning? Maybe get rid of the JR module that's between the big Crossfire and the Nirvana?
Okay, so we are working on something which is this thing here. And so the way that works, so instead of the JR bay at the back, where it's flat, so these pieces replace the JR bay, and then your big Crossfire will actually sit flush in the back without a JR bay.
Perfect.
So that'll be the solution. Yeah, and it comes with a wiring harness and so forth that you can plug in, because I don't know if you know, but inside of the big Crossfire, the JR bay, it's not empty.
Oh no, I didn't know. I thought it's empty and there is nothing in there.
There actually is. There's one I prepared earlier. So this is the board that's inside the Crossfire,
okay.
and then it has. It's a bridging board, and it does a few other things other than just plug into the JR. So we've had to work out what it does and make a harness that allows the Crossfire to still work.
Oh, that's great news. So you worked with TBS on that, or is this basically TBS sanctioned thing to do?
Both, yeah. A bit of both. We're working on the harness ourselves, but TBS is helping us out where we need help. Okay,
great. Yeah, that's very good to hear. It's one of my biggest concerns actually, because it is really, you get used to this nice ergonomics when flying Nirvana. It's just so natural. You don't get tired of anything. When I take my X9D, then I think there is something in the way. I cannot fly really. So that's great news. Yeah, one other thing that I've self experienced and I read on Facebook is when you don't use your Crossfire, the Nirvana actually doesn't turn it off like Taranis does. From my understanding, that's kind of a hardware issue, or is that software?
Okay. What I want to explain is that we designed the Nirvana. We started designing it 2 years ago, or over 2 years now, because it's been out for a little bit. 2 years ago, the Crossfire didn't exist, really, right?
Yeah.
So in our mind, when we did all of our testing, we knew that the main thing that we wanted the radio to be was fast, right? And we tested all the protocols, and we've done a bunch of work with FlySky before. Personally, I love iBus, right? iBus 2 is like probably one of the best protocols out there. I was flying in places where my friends were fail-safing with FrSky. So that's when we made the decision, okay, if we want to do this project, let's partner with FlySky. One, because we like the hardware, and two, I can fly places where the FrSky guys fail safe. So, I think it's a safe bet for us to create a good radio with FlySky. And so 2 years ago, when Crossfire wasn't around, we didn't realize that 2 years later, everybody is going to be flying Crossfire, right? So we didn't actually design it to switch the JR bay off. It's not part of the design. So it's not. So when people say, "Oh, there's a design flaw, there's a fault," there's actually no fault. It actually wasn't designed to turn off.
Okay.
It's designed to power on, right? So you turn it on and it's on, because we didn't realize that at races or so forth, you might need to power it down, or something like that we do now that we didn't do 2 years ago. We will release a hardware update where you may be able to change your board to. So we'll release a new main board or a wiring harness that will allow you to switch off the module. That's something that we're working on now that we'll release, and that will be an upgrade that you can purchase and change. There is a modification which we have done. If you're willing to hack up your board and do a DIY hack, we will release the information on how to make that mod to turn off the JR bay yourself. But it does require skills, technical knowledge, and a steady hand and a Dremel.
Okay, so I guess that's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to take that risk, it's a big risk, right? But we do have the instructor to do that.
Probably I would risk it, I'm too scared of my Nirvana because from my understanding demand is still very, very high, and it's not easy to get one.
Yep.
Actually. Or can you shed a light on this? Are you surprised by the reception of the radio, the good reception?
Yeah. So I knew it would be extremely popular. Because we are breaking the barriers with design and so forth, and it's extremely radical design. But the thing that makes it hard is that the radio is not an easy radio to manufacture and produce. So there's a bunch of very tiny parts in it that are very difficult to produce. So, for example, the anodizing, the colors. The colors are very difficult to produce in mass quantities and get a very high QC level. So one of the things that you've seen is that we've paid a lot of attention to the QC of the product, the fit, the feel, the quality. So if there's something wrong with the radio with our production batch, and a lot of our team who know me well know that I physically fly to the factory and I check it myself. It's not something that, just rolls off the production line. And I'm here in another country not knowing what's going on. I actually physically fly to the factory and then check on, production as it rolls out the door. And so if there's a problem, we're not going to ship it. And I don't care. I'm sorry if some people disagree with me, but I don't care if there's something that rolls off and then, for example, the coloring comes out scratched because the way it's assembled and there's scratches in it. I'm not going to ship it. We're going to redo that piece again until it's 100% correct. And that's the ethos that we wanted to carry through. And if things are delayed, things are delayed. That's just, it is what it is. And I would hope that experience carries on to the end consumer, that they receive something that's high end. We have made it the price point very affordable, for this radio. It should be a lot more expensive. But one thing when we designed this radio was we turned around and said, look, okay, this is the market and there's a lot of competitors. If you buy, and I'm going to take a direct stab here, completely open. If you buy an X9D with no Hall gimbals, a black and white screen, and you're paying X amount of dollars for this, how much are you getting ripped off by, and for how long have you been ripped off for that product? When we can produce full Hall sensors, full color screen for other black and white screen radio. So, we were just trying to just state a line there saying, this is what it should cost, and that's what it's got to be.
Yeah, I understand. That's the people that don't know about Nirvana, that I showed it to them. They say, boy, that's double quality, than at least double build quality than FR Sky, and it has double the features and a big color screen. It has to cost $500, and I told them no, it's actually cheaper than your average Tyrannus. They wouldn't believe. They thought it has to be at least $300 with what it brings to the table in terms of quality and the gimbals. Even if the gimbals of the special edition Tyrannus, for instance, are Hall gimbals as well, you instantly feel that this is not the same quality. The Tyrannus gimbals, they make crazy sounds when you move them, and it's just not as smooth. And even without flying, you're seeing that this is not the same quality, but when you start flying, you see it immediately that this is completely something different. And I'm surprised that you maybe have something like pro gimbals that are even better in your in your draw. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that we really are proud about the Nirvana, is that end to end, it changes the entire flying experience. And it's not just the gimbals, there's a whole combination of things in the back end which make it magic. And it's the pure fact that it's a complete digital system, right? So you have digital gimbals which have amazing feel to them. They're not too long and they're not too short. And that was very hard to do, by the way, make the height exactly perfect so that they're not too long and they're not too short. They're just kind of in that sweet spot in the middle. And then you have the digital Hall sensors, which are extremely around the zero deadband area. So those tiny movements on your fingers when you're coming in, you're doing a corkscrew or coming into a power loop, and just before you hit the ground, you need to squeeze the throttle a little. There's no deadband, so you can squeeze a little, and you don't need to jab, which means that you're flying much smoother. Then that translates through the main board. The main board has actual digital inputs, which a lot of the other radios don't have. They're still converting Hall digital to analog signal and then reading an analog signal, which is introducing latency, whereas we're reading a full digital signal in and then pushing a full digital signal out on S-Bus or iBus or CSRF. So you're getting from end to end a complete digital experience, which is a different level of feeling when you're flying.
Yeah, this is something I really can feel, and this is part of why I like my Nirvana that much. There's one thing of critique that I still have with the Nirvana is I'm quite a heavy OpenTX user, I guess. So I'm using maybe functions that not everybody is using, and I still feel some little quirks and bugs here and there, everywhere throughout the system. I think you're working on this. This is getting better, I believe. Is that something that you're depending the OpenTX devs working on, or is that something you are doing in-house, or can you explain a little bit about that process?
Okay, there's a bit of both going on. So we're working on a bunch of features ourselves. OpenTX is working on a bunch of features themselves as well. But the thing with OpenTX is that any change that we do or that they do, they need to ensure that it's not going to of radios, which is the beauty about OpenTX. So when OpenTX released, for example, 2.3, 2.3 will work for example, the X Lite, the X10, the X9D, the Nirvana, and a bunch of other radios all at the same time. And when someone makes one change, for example, we move the way an icon works. For example, you click on it to change the color of the background, or you click on it to change failsafe setting, right? That works on our radio, but if that breaks the build for an X10, then we've done the wrong thing, right? And so OpenTX as a community, they need to make sure that whatever changes we do doesn't affect every other radio, which is one of the reasons why when we do our builds and then submit them to OpenTX, so OpenTX can make sure it doesn't affect other radios. But that's also why we have our own version with our own update tool, because we can do all the mods and changes and things that we want to see in the radio. And you can update using the Underground FPV update tool to update your radio. And as those bugs are being fixed, then you will push those updates. You can update, and it's not going to break any other radios out there, the builds on those radios. That's the beauty of the ecosystem at the moment. But as things are being improved, worked on, and bugs are being fixed, we are pulling the latest builds into our build and then adding our additional add-ons onto ours.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I hope they're really curious about what's coming in the future, especially in the open underground software. Can you share any plans? What you're planning to do there, additionally to what's in OpenTX?
Yeah, so there's so we're working on quite a fair bunch of features. One of them is Crossfire. So the Crossfire one is the first out this coming week. And then after that, we're working on some Bluetooth functionality. We've got some really cool ideas that we've been working on as far as Bluetooth is concerned, and the way that you use the device and update the device. And we're hoping that it'll create a new way of staying updated with your firmware using Bluetooth. And some of the other things we're working on, so quad mode, race mode, and finder. And then there's also the wizard setup tool as well. And then just other minor bug fixes, like some little tweaks with the way the models rename themselves and they delete themselves, and changing things there to make it easier, because a lot of people ask about that. But yeah, some of the bigger ones that are coming, which are going to be actually a huge update, will be quad mode and race mode. So quad mode basically is just functions for quad only. So when you turn on the radio, it's preset for all quad use. So you just have two switches. You just assign those two switches to whatever, and then everything else is ignored. And then you have your gimbals. And it's preset with like failsafe and so forth, and turtle mode and blah blah blah.
Great for beginners. Great for beginners, I think.
Yeah. And then wizard is a part of that. So the wizard in quad mode will run you through the setup and say, press a button for turtle mode, and you press it, and it says, okay, that is now assigned. Are you okay with that? Yes. Great. Press a switch for arm. Are you okay with this switch? Yes. And then once that's all done, then you've already set up that model, and it's preset following a wizard. Then after that, race mode. Race mode is kind of exciting because 100%, it's literally two sticks and two switches, and every other function is disabled. Pretty much the screen doesn't even work. It's just, there's nothing going on in the CPU inside apart from two sticks and two switches. That's the only thing that works. So race mode is really purely focused around low latency and just speed.
Okay, great, great ideas. I especially like the function like quad mode because for beginners setting up a radio by themselves can really be super overwhelming, and they tend to forget important things like failsafe. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great point. Um, Talking receivers, I really like the receivers the Nirvana comes with, but
Yeah.
they aren't sold separately. Is that right? At least I couldn't find them in your store.
Yeah. So the receivers are the X receiver is coming this week, so we'll have that up this week or next week. The S receiver, which is the bigger one, I actually do have something very interesting. So we've been testing out, we've been designing some new antennas with ORT, and so I did a interesting test last week, and I doubled the range of that
Oh,
receiver. So that receiver is already 1.3 kilometers, right? And I know RSSI isn't working at the moment. That is something that FlySky is working on. We're waiting on FlySky to give us access to the updater. If they don't, we're going to just push our own update because we've actually written telemetry function for our receivers anyway.
okay.
So if they don't give us access pretty soon, we're just going to push our own onto it, which will be in our next in one of our updates. But that receiver standard out of the box is a 1.3 kilometer receiver, 100% tested. Line of sight, obviously, because if you have obstructions, it's going to be less. But yeah, we've achieved 1.5 kilometers on it, but I would rather state 1.3 just to be safe, a little bit under what, just to be safe. But the other day, testing these new antennas from ORT that the guys have been working on, so we hit 2.5 kilometers, and we didn't even fail safe. We could keep going. It's it's pretty unreal.
It's great, yeah.
That out of the box, out of the box, we can start getting range like that on 2.4 gig, solid stable links.
Yeah, that's great. That's even 1.3 is pretty amazing. Actually, we have. I always see people struggling. Yesterday, I was flying out with a friend who had a failsafe like 70 meters away with FSky. It open field. Maybe it's damaged antenna. You don't know, but it's amazing how often this free sky systems are fail saving and pretty much open environment. I think that's one of the big reasons Crossfire got so popular.
Yeah, of course, of course. And everybody loves the safety of not fail safing, right?
Yeah, exactly. As much as expensive your equipment on the quad gets, and now everybody tries to fly Hero 7 or likes to fly Hero 7 because of the amazing video quality, and you don't want to have your Hero 7 fail saving out there over water.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is there anything you can tell me about the new hardware you have teasered there, like a pro version or something like this? Is there anything you want to share with our audience or can share?
So we may be releasing some hydro dips.
Oh, it's
So they'll be shell only or fully assembled. Also, I want to point out is if you look up NX Graphics, they're over in Canada. Will over there, he designed some really awesome stuff for Fat Shark goggles, and he was one of the early adopters who we managed to get out a Nirvana to early, so he could start working on wraps. And he's got some Unreal sticker wraps for the Nirvana. Very, very cool stuff that he's done there. So he has that, and then we've also got a couple of hydro dips we're releasing. And then let's see if we can do a little close up here. The CNC gimbal there. So the CNC gimbals. Was that too quick? Do you want me to do that again?
I think I got it pretty good. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay.
You can,
Oh yeah, that sounds
yeah,
expensive.
yeah. So they definitely feel even smoother than the ones that are already in it, and the ones that are already in it are already silky smooth, and these are just pure metal. Like just that's how it feels. It feels metal. And it has weight to it, so when you move it, it feels heavy and solid. It's different experience yet again. And then after that, we should be releasing. There's a couple of upgrades, so there'll be an LED upgrade panel that you can update your LCD screen with brighter LED lights inside. The reason it's not standard in the Nirvana now is because it does drain your batteries quicker. So it's an optional upgrade if you want to upgrade that later. If you do a lot of bright sunlight outside flying and you want a brighter screen, we're going to release an upgrade kit. And then the main board that shuts off the JR Bay wiring harness and so forth. Crossfire full-size adapter with a wiring harness as well. That's coming too. And antenna kit for longer range on 2.4.
Great. Sounds great. Good things to come. Amazing. Yeah. So
but if there is some like a particular wants from the community, let us know and we'll make it, because the thing we're trying to do the most about this product is trying to support the community and make the product better and better, and make new things that might be difficult to DIY, and then we'll just make it.
I have the feeling I'm in your Facebook group, and I see you guys constantly being around on Facebook and chatting with users. But I think one of the big things is that you all seem to fly yourself and use the products actually yourself on a regular basis, and I think that's a very important factor. If you want to try to make a good product, you actually have to use it and have to be in the community and fly quads and see what it's like to pack your stuff, pack out, and only someone who regularly does this comes to the idea of the hard shell cover, which is amazing. I only travel with my Nirvana. It's so easy, it's protected, and seconds later it's ready to go. That's genius.
Yep.
I really like
But that was the whole idea about was the switches in the back, and the reason why we actually put them in here was because I travel a lot, and when I designed it, it was the switches were. This is one of the very, very early prototypes, right? You can see the. There you go. You can see the difference.
Oh yes.
Right. And you can see the switches on the top there with that one, and one thing I noticed was when you stick it in your bag, if the switches were on the top, they were going to get broken.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then that's how we came up with the hard shell cover to protect the switches, and it was literally, I want this radio to just go straight in my backpack and then off I go, because I don't want to be hanging around packing up for like 10 minutes and then worry about my switches breaking and wrap it up in a jumper or something to try and protect my radio. I just want to click and go.
Perfect. Great idea. It's a very small thing, but you have to have practical experience to get to these ideas, I think.
Yeah. I mean, all of us in the team, we all fly, and we love it, and some of us fly wings, some of us fly planes, and some of us fly quads and so forth. So we do have a good range of different RC types that the team fly, which helps a lot in the development of a radio.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks for being on, Warrick. Thanks
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on and answering all that questions. And I didn't send you any questions before. I just asked you away everything I had here in my list, and you had very good answers to that. And thanks for that. It's not usual, I think, to get the CEO of the company jumping on Skype and answering every question you have.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and I always don't mind answering any questions for the community, because I like hearing what everyone has to say as well. So I'm always here and I'm always around. I am busy. So I just try my best to make sure I'm present. That's difficult, but I am there.
Yeah, I know that feeling a little bit of myself, but you always have to make just time for it, just a thing. And yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much for that. And
Okay.
bye bye.
All right. Catch you later.
Yep, see you. Bye.